Welcome to the weekly podcast of First United Methodist Church in Costa Mesa, California. Founded in 1912, the church gathers on Sundays at 10 a.m., and we invite you to join us anytime. For more information, visit our website, costamesafirst.umc.com, or connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Well, it was 1981, and I was a star athlete playing t-ball. Yes. Can you find me there? Maybe not. In reality, I wasn't a star athlete. I was like every other 7-year-old who was having a hard time, swinging the ball, swinging the bat, and actually making contact with a ball that's sitting up on top of a plastic tube. If you've ever seen something rather funny, you go to a t-ball game and you'll see kids striking out because they can't even hit the ball on top of this, stationary tube. It's pretty funny. I enjoyed playing on this team. And at the same time, I was living in Kentucky, and my grandparents were living in San Diego at the time, and they had invited me out to spend a week with them as a 7-year-old by myself. And I can't believe my parents would allow me to do that. I don't think we would allow our kids to do such crazy thing, flying on a plane by myself. But the unfortunate thing is that it meant that I would miss out on the last game of the season. I wouldn't be able to play in it. And so on the next to last game of the season, I remember having a can of Shasta in my hand. Okay, this was back when kids drank soda all the time, and our family was not, well-to-do enough to buy the real thing, or maybe we were just too cheap, so we'd go to Kmart and get Shasta. Anybody else? Okay, we got a couple hands there. All kinds of Shasta. And I remember standing there, and my coach, Buddy Morris, he walked up to me and he got down on one knee and he looked me in the eye and he said, "David, we are going to miss you so much at the last game. You contribute so much to this team and we are truly going to miss you." And I wasn't some star athlete. I was just an average 7-year-old, although I will tell you that the height of my baseball career, I was Bowling Green, Kentucky Little League. I was an all-star. I was on the all-star team. That was the end of my career. I stopped at the peak. But I remember that moment. I'm 45, right? And I still remember that moment as a 7-year-old with him getting down on one knee because he saw me in a powerful way. Like he somehow valued me. He expressed that I was important. And it went beyond just looking me in the eye, but he looked through my eyes into my heart. And it's one of those moments as I look over the course of my life where I felt like someone saw me and I was valued and I was important. Well, this morning I've asked for a few volunteers to help me with a little experiment. So if you wouldn't mind coming up front, those 4 individuals that I talked to previously. Now, from time to time, we do some awkward things around here, but Sarah mentioned last week that we are creating a what space? Brave space. So we've got some brave individuals. Chris, I think I've actually got the 4 already. I appreciate it. But let's see. Mike, if you wouldn't mind sitting here. This is Mike Hidden, if you have not met him. He's awesome. And this is Christy. Christy, would you mind sitting right across from Mike? And then Sharon, if you wouldn't mind sitting here. Yes. Now, all of these individuals who are looking at you, they're not here. They're invisible. Jerry, would you mind sitting here? Now, if you guys wouldn't mind sitting knee to knee, would you mind doing that? Okay, great. Now, you guys both kind of know each other a little bit, but I want to give you a minute to get to know each other on a different level, to see each other, all right? So I want you to look in each other's eyes, and this is not the blinking game, so if you blink, it's okay. You're not out, all right? That's not it. And but I am requesting, no need to laugh or look away, but actually look into each other's eyes for 1 minute. Okay? And done. They made it. They did not explode. What did you experience? Who wants to share? Just briefly, what did you experience in that moment?
I would say just a calm, relaxed presence. So I feel really comfortable with Mike, and it's just a good positive energy right here.
Yeah. What did you feel, Mike?
Well, first, blurry vision because we're so close. But I would say the comfort thing also. I was very comfortable looking at Christy and her looking at me. I wasn't afraid.
You were not afraid. Yeah. How about you guys? What did you experience, Jerry?
That we enjoy making funny faces at each other, but that's a part of our character. And just in the stillness, just really opening up to see Sharon for who she is. And, I'm friends with her, but do we ever just really contact with each other? So it was really great to just look into her eyes and know, she's so welcoming and nice.
Yeah. So there was something powerful about taking that moment. Yeah. How about you, Sharon? What did you experience?
Well, obviously calmness, because I'm not used to being quiet that long. But, looking in Jerry's eyes and remembering what a, kind, good person he is. And, he's in my community group. So, I hear a lot of stories about his feelings, and he's a very, very emotional person and kind, super kind. And that kindness is kind of what I was soaking in.
Yeah. Did you feel awkward? Was there any awkwardness? Was there any I don't know, or did it feel too intimate? We don't stare people in the eyes very often. So any thoughts on that?
No, it just seemed like a really long time.
Really long time. Yeah. Jerry, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, we don't usually stare into people's eyes for so long, so it kind of, in the beginning, it feels awkward, but again, you just let your guard down and you just, soak it in.
You let your guard down. You had to let your guard down. You didn't have to. You chose to. Yeah, you chose to. How about you guys?
I just felt like there was a point to where both of us just relaxed. I almost felt like it was simultaneously we took a deep breath, and it was more comfortable looking straight into his eyes than standing right here wondering what we're going to do. So.
Yeah. How about you, Mike?
At first it was purposeful, but then it just seemed normal.
Okay.
The entire time, yeah.
Why did it seem normal for you?
Because of the comfort level.
Yeah, you knew Christy a bit already.
Yes.
You had experiences with her.
Yes.
Yeah. Did, and Jerry mentioned this, it felt, Jerry's mentioning that it felt like it went beyond physical, like a physical seeing, to seeing something else. Did you see that? You weren't...
I felt it. I would say more, I don't know, I just felt connected right here. For some reason, I just felt like my heart was there, and it was warm, and I could almost hear it beating at a calm point, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Good. Well, give these guys a hand. Were they super brave? Yes. You guys can head back to your seats. Yes. Thank you, guys. One of the things that, these are fine. One of the things that we recognize through that experiment, have any of you ever done that before with someone? Yeah, it is a dynamic experience. And my guess is they will feel more connected to one another after that experience than before. And it's not necessarily something that we go out of our way to do, but there's something about looking into someone's eyes that goes beyond the physical act of seeing them to actually seeing through their eyes and having this heart connection. And I've done that even with a stranger, and it still has the same, there's still a same connection. So we're in a series called Do You See What I See? And we're exploring the vision of First United. And so we've got it up here on the screen. If you wouldn't mind reading it with me this morning. First United exists to remind us that we are already loved by God and called into genuine relationships as we follow the radical way of Jesus. We exist as a community to remind us, the whole world, that we are already loved by God, that we're called into genuine relationships as we follow the radical way of Jesus. We've been spending the last few weeks asking questions. You may remember the questions. Week 1, we asked the question, what is most true about God? What is most true about God? What did we learn from Sarah? God is love. Yeah, that's what's most true about God, is that God is love. Then the second week, we asked, what is true about us or me? What's true about us? That we are what? That's true. That's week 3. Thank you, Jonathan. We are loved, right? What is true about God? What's most true about God? God is love. What's most true about me? That we are loved. And then week 3, Jonathan, what do we all need? There we go, genuine relationships. And so today we're asking the question, what are we all afraid of? So for many of us, being seen and seeing another person, not just physically, but having this emotional connection through a genuine relationship can be a bit nerve-wracking. Like that can be a bit scary for many of us. And yet, ironically, the very thing that we want, to feel valued, to feel loved, to feel seen, that very thing that we want can cause us to withdraw from genuine relationships out of a fear or a nervousness. So I want us to take a look at the passage that Darcy read today, and it's in Luke chapter 15. I included that scripture in your bulletin. If you wouldn't mind pulling that out, just so you could read along with me. And we're starting in Luke chapter 15, verse 11. And it says, "Then Jesus said, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me.' So he divided his property between them." Now, many of you have heard this story many times, right? We've heard it lots of times. If you haven't, good. You're learning it for the first time today. But I want to hopefully give you a slightly different angle on this story. Now, we know that if you ask for your inheritance from your parents, it's probably not going to go very well. Best case scenario, right? There's going to be some disappointment. There's going to be some, sadness. Worst case scenario, broken relationship. Like, what the heck are you asking? It would be like going up to your parents and saying, "I cannot wait for you to die. I just can't wait. I can't wait for you to die. Will you give me a portion of whatever it is that you're leaving me?" That would be horrendous, would it not? In our day and age, and in that day and age as well. To add insult to injury, we read that the younger son goes off to a faraway land and wastes the money on what the NRSV calls dissolute living. What do you think that includes, dissolute living? Ladies of the night. Okay, yes, Darcy. Darcy's got all the answers up here. What's up with that? Drinking, gambling, ladies of the night, right? All of these dissolute living. So he wastes the money, and the scriptures say that a famine comes over the land, and he has to take a job feeding it's one of the most despicable roles he would play as a Jewish individual, is to feed unclean animals, or pigs. And it says that he's so hungry, even the pig slop looks good to eat. So hungry. Then in verse 17, Jesus says, "But when he came to himself, the younger son, he said, 'How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.'" So what does he do? He gets up, says he comes to himself, comes to his senses, and he starts to head home with this idea of begging to be a hired hand. Now, if I'm that father I've had this experience with my son, I'm probably going to be disappointed at best, right? Resentful, maybe angry, maybe really angry. But in this passage, the father that Jesus is describing, I imagine this father standing on the edge of the field, right? Looking and watching and waiting for the return of his son. That's the type of father that I'm envisioning in this moment. In verse 20 it says, "But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.'" And so there's this sense of shame, this sense of brokenness, that he doesn't want to be seen as a son. He wants to be seen as a hired hand. Don't see me that way, Father. Don't look at me the way that you used to look at me. I'll be happy to just be a hired hand. Verse 22, "But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf.'" Why do I never read this passage with "put a ring on his finger." And thought of Beyonce until like the last few years. Like I just never did, and now I do every time. It's like this. Now I think about that every time I read this passage. "Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And they began to celebrate. And so did the father treat him like a servant? No. Did he see him as a servant? No. He saw him like he had always seen him, like a son with tremendous value. Tremendous value in the midst of the dissolute living, in the midst of the knowing that he had squandered his wealth. In the midst of all of that, he treated him as his son. Now, meanwhile, the older brother, what's he up to? We know he's out in the field, he's working, and he hears that there's some sort of commotion in the home. And so as he begins to go there, and he finds out from a servant that his younger brother had come home and that they're celebrating. And what does he do? What does he do? Mad. Yeah, he gets angry. He sulks. I can see him sulking. And he goes back out, right? Whether he's on the edge of the field, or he's just sulking. And his father comes out to him to try to coax him in. But the son, the older son, responds in anger. Look at verse 29. Verse 29, the older son says, "Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with ladies of the night, you killed the fatted calf for him." Then the father said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found." So we have these two sons. One has made a total wreck of his life, and he cannot see himself as a member of the family anymore because of his performance, because of what he had done. Right? He now could not see himself as a valued member of his father's family. He wanted to stand on the outside of the family and be a mere hired hand. He assumes that his father is going to judge him. Does he not? Why? Because he's judging himself. He can't see himself as a son, so he assumes that his father will not see him as a son either. Then with the older brother, the father says to the older brother in verse 31, so powerful, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours." Have you ever had someone see you, but you could not accept the way that they saw you? Have you ever had someone see you with value and dignity and beauty and importance, but you couldn't see yourself in that way. That's the situation with both of these sons. The father sees them as sons, valuable, important, incredible gifts and talents, and also weaknesses, and also disappointments, and also brokenness. But he doesn't see them through that lens. He sees them through the lens that they are a part of his family, that they are beautiful sons who have tremendous value, even though neither one of them could see themselves in that way. Do you see that? The younger son couldn't see himself as a son and have value and tremendous worth. And the older son didn't see his own value by going, I have access to all the rights and privileges of being a part of my father's house. Neither one of them could see themselves in the way that the father saw them. So how about you? Have you ever seen someone that way? Have you ever seen a friend or a family member or maybe a child with those eyes of value, those eyes of beauty, even in the midst of their challenges? Even when they perhaps could not see their own value, in the midst of what I would say is both their beauty and their brokenness. To be seen, like we demonstrated this morning with our eyes, to be seen is a two-way gift. It's not a one-way gift, it's a two-way gift. If I have someone who is sharing with me their beauty and brokenness somehow in their life, they're trusting me, they're being brave enough to share that with me, and I see that, it's a gift to me, is it not? Not everybody does that. That's a gift for them to allow me into their life in that way. In the same way that if I'm brave enough to share my own beauty and brokenness and challenges with them, I'm brave enough to do that, and they listen and they acknowledge and they see me, they take time to see me, that's a gift to me, isn't it? Seeing one another is a two-way gift. The thing that I want us to recognize from this parable is that the Father sees us. This metaphor of God the Father, right? Name this supreme being. If Father is a word that trips you up in the midst of this story, let's use the word God. Let's use the word divine. Whatever it is for us to have that conversation right now, to go, the divine sees you. Not in a creepy X-ray sort of way where, God looks down through your house and sees everything you're doing, Carol, right? Not that, right? But God sees you, Carol, and loves you with tremendous value. Because God sees us, the divine sees us in the midst of all of our beauty and brokenness. In the midst of all of our challenges, whether we're the younger son who's kind of done some dissolute living in whatever way, not that, it's prostitutes and gambling, whatever it is that we've kind of wandered away from home, whatever that looks like for you, God sees you as a son or a daughter, as an amazing child. Or maybe it's as an older son that doesn't recognize all of the rights and privileges that you have as being a part of God's family. God sees us, not based on our performance, but based on the fact that God has already created us with inherent value. So what would it look like? Because we're talking about our vision of our church, right? First United exists to remind us that we're already loved by God and called into genuine relationships. So Sarah helped us out by starting going, this is what genuine relationships are all about. So what would it look like if we were brave enough to allow others to see us? What would it be like if we were brave enough as the community of First United, if we were brave enough to allow others to see us. I'm not talking about me meeting Marty for the first time and I just download every, good, bad, and ugly thing that's ever happened in my life, right? That's not, Marty would love that. I'm sure she would appreciate that. We're not talking about that type of oversharing. But sometimes I think in our minds, we think any sharing is oversharing. If I'm sharing anything that involves the matter of my heart, where I've dropped the guard, it's sharing too much. Well, what if we were brave enough to allow others to see us? I want to read this quote from C.S. Lewis in the book The Four Loves, because this is it's a powerful, hard-hitting quote, and you can just read along in your mind with me. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping your heart intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it up carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries and avoid all entanglements. Entanglements, that word stands out to me because when I allow someone to see inside of me and I see inside someone else, there becomes an entanglement, not a bad entanglement, but just a healthy, like we're together in this life. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness, but in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. To love it all is to be vulnerable. So there is this vulnerability that we have the opportunity to step into as we see others or allow them to see us. I love what Christy said. You said here, it was like I just let my guard down. I just took a deep breath and I just let my guard down, and then you experienced it. There was that vulnerability that was there. I allow people to see me when I share the highs and lows of my day, to really share them. Here's the great stuff and here's the not so great stuff. I'm allowing you to see me. I allow you to see me when I share those moments in my upbringing that were really great and not so great, and talk about my home of origin. I'm allowing you to see me when I share those things. I allow you to see me when I share those moments in my life that are the markers. We all have those markers where it was like, this was a super high in my life and this was a super low. When I'm willing to go back into my life and I share those things with you, I'm allowing you to see me. I'm allowing you to see me when I share my hopes and my dreams for my life or for my wife or my family, my kids. I allow you to see me when I share those. I'm vulnerable. I allow you to see me when I share my fears, my failures, my frustrations. Those are all moments when I'm allowing you to see me. Now, in order for someone to see me, I think about several things that they need to do. If I'm sharing something with you, Darcy, and the first thing that I would hope that you would do, may not happen, but is that you would listen, right? That you would not be looking over my shoulder at the next person that you need to talk to, or that you're busy, you're ready to go on to the next thing or whatever, but there's an actual listening. That there would be a pausing where you would pause, not because you're thinking about how you want to respond, but you're just taking it in. There's like this sacred moment when someone is sharing something with us. And that then you would acknowledge it in some way. You'd listen, you'd pause, you'd acknowledge it by saying, man, thank you for sharing that. I see how exciting that was for you. It was awesome. I'm so happy for you. Man, that's got to be tough. I hear that was frustrating. I'm with you. You've had people, they have responded to you in that way. And how does it make you feel? When they listen, they kind of pause and acknowledge something that you've shared that's important, whether it's great or not so great. How does it feel? You feel valued. Yeah, what else do you feel? Validated. seen. Somebody else, how do you feel? Connected. I feel important to them. Now, there are some times where people don't listen. They don't pause, or they don't acknowledge it. And I'm learning to say that I'm still okay. I don't need you to listen or pause or acknowledge what's going on inside of me in order for me to be okay. Because if I require your validation or your presence in that moment for me to be okay, I'm going to be constantly running around feeling like, am I okay? Am I not okay based on your response? Will I be disappointed if there's not a reciprocity? Yes. Could I feel hurt? Yes. But I don't need you to respond in a certain way in order for me to be okay as a human being. In order for genuine, long-lasting relationships to develop, we want to learn how to do that with one another, to see one another. But I'm pointing out that we can be brave with the potential that things won't go exactly right, and you can still be okay. So that's us sharing things with other people for them to see us. What does it look like for us to see them? If people share something really great with you, there can be a tendency for us to be jealous if it hasn't happened to us. Like if someone comes up and shares with you, man, I got a promotion at work. I got a raise. I got a new house. I just bought a house, right? Kip and Desiree, you guys just bought a new house. Yes! That is awesome. I rent. Man, wish I could own a house. Great for you. Oh. I didn't respond that way to you. I'm stoked that you got a house. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited that you have a potential for a Pepperdine professor job. Like, man, you're important. If I don't feel important and I see someone else in a role that makes me feel like they're more important from me, can I see them? Can I really celebrate with them? See how that is? See, there can be jealousy or awkwardness or nervousness because I'm not okay with who I am. So part of seeing others is us being comfortable with who we are and going, I'm good, man. I've got gifts and talents. I'm working hard. I'm doing things in life. I got people that love me, people that value me. God values me. My friends and family value me. I value myself. So when I see something good happen in your life, I want to cheer you on. So you know I see you and I care about you. So when someone shares something that's not so good, sometimes that's tough too. Somebody shares something that's not so good in their life and maybe we feel like we have to fix it. Like, oh geez, this makes me nervous. What have you done this, and this? And they're like, look, I'm not trying to do something. I just need you to listen to me right now. I'm dying. So what does it look like in those moments where somebody is sharing something tough that we can just be with them and see them? Or maybe they've royally screwed up. Maybe they've even hurt us. Do we see them through the lens of that one experience or that one event? Did the father see the younger son through the lens of his dissolute living? No. He saw his son through the lens of his incredible value as a human being who has both beauty and brokenness. And so when someone in your life shares something tough, whether I know it's harder if it impacts you and me, but let's just, they did something bad, or, difficult, whatever it was. How do we see them? not through the lens of their proverbial worst moment, but how do we see them through the lens of their value as a human being? Knowing that they are experiencing challenges, beauty, and brokenness, and there's this journey of life in the same way that you and I are experiencing that. You and I are experiencing that too, aren't we? Both beauty and brokenness, ups and downs, twists and turns and challenges. And how do we want to be seen? We want to be seen because of our value, that we're important in the midst of both our beauty and our brokenness. So, what would it look like for us to do that as a community? What would it look like for us to intentionally take time to see others and allow them to see us? Does it look like taking some time aside, probably not staring them? If anybody comes up to me and says, I want to look at you in the eyes for a minute, that's just creepy. Okay, please do not do that. It will feel awkward. But what does it look like to grab coffee, grab breakfast, grab lunch, invite them over to your home? Not to just spill your guts, but just to be with. And that in the midst of that we move the conversation beyond news, weather, and sports to have authentic conversation where we're sharing both our beauty and our brokenness. What would that look for you this week to do that? Not only with people in this community, but people that you have relationship with outside of this. Let's pray. God, thank you for seeing us through the lens of incredible value. Thank you for this ancient story that illustrates how you see us and how you invite us to see ourselves and how you invite us to see others. May we as a community be brave enough to allow people to see us and be intentional enough to see into the hearts of others. We love you, God.